Two raised beds can receive the exact same seeds, the exact same sunlight, and the exact same expensive fertilizer. In one bed, the plants turn deep green and take off within days. In the other, the leaves stay pale, the stems stay thin, and the gardener assumes they just need another dose of plant food. But the problem usually is not the brand of fertilizer. You may not be underfeeding your plants. Your raised bed may simply be letting the fertilizer escape before the roots ever get a chance to use it. The symptoms are deeply frustrating. You follow the instructions on the bag perfectly. You mix the exact ratio of liquid feed into your watering can. You pour it carefully around the base of the tomatoes or the peppers. For a day or two, the surface of the soil looks rich and dark. The plants might even look a little crisper in the morning. But by the end of the week, the lower leaves are turning yellow again. The growth stalls. The plants look hungry. The natural instinct is to feed them again, to buy a stronger product, to mix a slightly heavier dose. This is where the cycle of wasted money begins. The hidden mistake is treating fertility as a liquid you pour, instead of a structure you build. When a raised bed is filled with loose, dry soil that lacks mature organic matter, it acts less like a sponge and more like a funnel. Many backyard gardeners fill their raised beds with commercial potting mixes that look great in year one. But over time, the organic components break down. The soil settles. What is left behind is a dusty, empty matrix. It looks like a full bed of soil, but practically, it is a dead zone. Think about how fertilizer actually reaches a plant. Roots do not eat dry powder. Roots drink. They take up nutrients that are dissolved in soil moisture. If the water cannot stay in the root zone, the nutrients cannot stay in the root zone. When you pour a liquid feed over a bed with a weak, porous structure, gravity pulls that liquid straight down. It slips past the young roots, hits the native dirt underneath the wooden frame, and drains away. Most of the liquid fertilizer you bought this year might currently be sitting 6 inches below your raised bed, completely out of reach. The soil is empty scaffolding. The food passes right through. The soil is missing its biological net. Compost, broken down leaves, and dark, aged organic matter do not just provide their own slow-release nutrients. They act as physical and chemical catcher's mitts. On a microscopic level, mature organic matter holds a negative electrical charge. Many of the vital nutrients in your fertilizer, like calcium, potassium, and magnesium, hold a positive charge. When you pour fertilizer into a bed rich in organic matter, those nutrients act like magnets. They stick to the soil particles. They are held in place, waiting for the roots to extract them. Without that organic net, there is nothing for the fertilizer to stick to. It is incredibly easy to blame the fertilizer when a plant looks weak. It is tempting to switch from gentle organic feeds to harsh synthetic liquids, hoping for a faster, more aggressive reaction. But adding more soluble fertilizer to an empty soil structure is like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. The synthetic salts might give the plant a temporary dark green flush, but they do nothing to fix the broken system. In fact, heavy doses of synthetic fertilizers can actually burn the remaining microscopic soil life, making the original problem worse. You are doing more work, spending more money, but the soil is steadily holding less. The old method of constantly feeding the plant was not magic. It was just masking a physical problem. Before opening another bag of plant food, there is a simple observation you can make to diagnose your own raised bed. The next time you water heavily, watch the bottom edge of the bed. If water begins seeping out from under the wood or metal within a minute of watering the surface, the bed is flushing too fast. It has lost its holding capacity. The root zone is getting washed, not watered. Another simple field test requires nothing but your hands. Dig down about 4 inches, grab a handful of damp soil, and squeeze it tightly. Open your hand. If the soil shatters and falls apart instantly like dry sand, it lacks the structure to hold nutrients. If it holds its shape perfectly but drips muddy water, it is drowning the roots. You want it to hold its shape loosely, breaking apart only when you gently poke it. The fix is not to feed more often. The fix is to stop the leak. If the bed is already planted and actively growing, you cannot dig everything up and start over. But you can drastically change how the top layers behave, shifting the environment from a funnel back into a sponge. First, stop relying entirely on fast-acting liquid feeds. Switch to a slow-release dry granular organic fertilizer. These granules need soil biology to break them down, which means they cannot immediately wash away in the next rainstorm. They sit on the surface, releasing a tiny bit of nutrition every time water passes over them. Next, you must address the missing organic net. Apply a solid 2-inch layer of finished compost across the entire surface of the bed, working carefully around the existing plant stems. Do not try to dig it in or till it into the root zone. You will only damage the shallow feeder roots. Let the compost sit right on top. Over the next few weeks, every time you water, you will naturally wash the humic acids, fine organic particles, and active biology from that compost down into the loose, exhausted soil below. You are slowly packing the empty spaces in the lower layers with organic matter, without ever lifting a shovel. Finally, you must lock that new moisture in with a thick layer of natural mulch. Use shredded leaves, clean straw, or untreated dried grass clippings. Spread it thickly over the compost. This completely stops the summer sun from baking the surface. When the surface stays dark and moist, earthworms and natural soil life will begin to travel higher up into the bed. As they move, they carry the new compost down, naturally stitching it into the older soil. They rebuild the missing structure for you. The bed stops behaving like a dead drainage pipe and starts behaving like a living system. Over time, you will notice an undeniable shift in how the garden behaves. The soil will actually feel different. It will feel heavier, slightly more resistant when you push a trowel into it. It will hold a dark, damp color long into the afternoon, even in the middle of summer. You will find yourself watering less frequently, because the bed is no longer swinging wildly between completely flooded and bone dry. The moisture stays steady, and because the moisture stays steady, root growth can proceed without constant interruption. And when you do finally reach for that bag of fertilizer again, the reaction will be entirely different. Because the bed now has the biological net and the physical structure to hold what it receives, a single feeding will actually last. The plants will respond faster, the leaves will stay green longer, and you will not have to return with another dose a week later. The old bag of fertilizer sitting in the shed is no longer a desperate, weekly life support system for a struggling garden. It goes back to being what it was always meant to be, an occasional, minor boost for a soil system that is already doing most of the heavy lifting. Fertilizer feeds the plant, but the soil structure decides if the plant actually gets to keep it.